Hi, it's Xingyu from Beijing. Welcome to Footprints, a podcast where we explore the stories of people from all walks of life who share a deep connection with China. There's a well-known saying in Chinese, the plan for the day begins in the morning, and the plan for the year begins in spring. As spring arrives, China is also stepping into one of the most important moments in its political calendar, the Two Sessions. This annual gathering of lawmakers and political advisors helps shape the country's direction for the year ahead. And the world is watching. Each year, journalists from across the globe come to Beijing to cover the event, offering diverse perspectives on China's policies and development. One of them is Leota Marc Membrere from Samoa, a beautiful island nation in the South Pacific. The young journalist is with Savali Newspaper. Leota is actually his High Chief title, a prestigious honor in Samoan culture given to respected leaders within their communities. Last year, Mark made the long journey to Beijing to experience the Two Sessions firsthand. What was it like? How did it shape his understanding of China? I had a conversation with Mark online. Hey Mark, it's so great to have you on our show. First of all, please tell us about yourself.
It's really great to be here on CGTN Radio. I am Leota Marc Membrere. I am a journalist from Samoa. Last year, I spent 5 months in Beijing. During my stay in Beijing, I attended the Two Sessions. I went to the Boao Forum and many other significant events that happened in China last year.
And now in China, the country is getting ready for its annual political season. The Two Sessions, or 两会 in Chinese, are about to take place in Beijing. So Mark, you came all the way from Samoa to Beijing last year for the Two Sessions. What was it like?
Well, just talking about the Two Sessions again, it brings back so many good memories. Uh, it was my first time going to Beijing last year. I was so fortunate enough to be invited to be part of a program held by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in China, where they invite journalists from all over the world to attend the Two Sessions and also to get a taste of Chinese food, Chinese culture, everything about that. So we had a really good time. Now, talking about the Two Sessions, that was the very first big event that we attended last year. So never in my life had I imagined that I would be entering the Great Hall of the People. It is such a magnificent building. Even entering into its doors, it was wow. It was quite the experience. I'm from a small island nation. We don't have magnificent buildings just like that. So just by attending there, it was amazing. Now, for the Two Sessions itself, it is a very, very big event in China. Some of us, the journalists who took part in the program, didn't really know of its significance until we got to Beijing. I even told my some of my friends that, hey, I'm going to the Great Hall of the People for the Two Sessions. And then when I mentioned the Two Sessions, they were very shocked. They're like, do you even realize the significance of what you're taking part in? So that's when I did my research, and then yeah, I found out that the Two Sessions is the biggest political event in China for the year. Each and every year from now, even this year, I'm not going to be taking part in person, sadly, but maybe someday in the future I will do again. But from Samoa, I will be following the Two Sessions and see what new things China has to offer, not only for the people of China, but to the world.
And a bit of background here. The Two Sessions encompass the annual sessions of China's top legislature, the National People's Congress, or NPC, and the National Political Advisory Body, the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, or CPPCC. It's an occasion where national policies, economic goals, and legislative plans are discussed and approved. So this year, the third session of the 14th MPC is scheduled to open on March the 5th, while the third session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee is set to begin on March the 4th. And the event also serves as a gateway for journalists from across the globe to gain insights into China's development, with a wide range of topics such as economy, legislation, and foreign policy. So Mark, what stood out to you?
For me, The biggest thing that stood out last year when we attended the two sessions is China's commitment to its green, clean energy, its fight against the climate crisis, and doing stuff that makes the environment better. I'm from a Pacific Island nation, and we are at the forefront of the climate crisis. We are the first to feel the impacts of climate change. We have islands that are sinking due to sea level rise. Now, I told a lot of people after the two sessions that I was so happy to hear that China is making big steps into making a greener, cleaner energy, which is good for the environment and it's also good news for the Pacific, which means less pollution. So hopefully this year, I'm looking forward to this year to hear what other plans China has for the climate and also the environment.
Yeah, I think China is also striving towards a more sustainable and green development path. Actually, last year I interviewed an NPC deputy. He's working in the area of clean energy. He's from Shanxi province, which is a province known for its coal production. But over the years, the energy structure has significantly changed in the province by incorporating more renewable energy. So I think that's a really good example showing China's commitment. And Mark, I saw you in one of the videos during the two sessions in the Great Hall of the People. You were wearing the suit with the special necklace. Could you tell us about the story behind this?
So that's what you call in ulafala.
Okay.
It's a special necklace worn by chiefs in Samoa. So I usually, when I went to China, of course I wanted to take something that will help me tell I'm from Samoa.
Mm.
Now, if you wear that, of course, a lot of people would instantly think that you're from Samoa. For a lot of people who don't know what it is, and if a lot of people in China watch wrestling in America, such as WWE, you could see the wrestler called Roman Reigns also wearing that. You would see a lot of top political leaders in Samoa wear that as well. And not only them, if you come to Samoa, it's usually you'd usually see it worn by a lot of older men as well, because it's worn by chiefs. So it's a very, very special necklace in my country, and I was very happy to be able to take it to China. Because when I went to the two sessions, a lot of people were staring at me because of the necklace. It's very easy to spot out because it's
Yes.
so bright red. Every people coming up to me, I was like, "Oh, excuse me, where's this? What's this? What's this? What's this?" So I was happy to explain to them. Even even Hua Chunying, the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, was asking me about that
Oh,
when I came up to meet her. So I was really happy to explain it to them. But it's what we call the ula fala, and
ulafala. What
yeah.
was it made of?
So the color is originally brown. It's painted red.
Oh, okay.
Now, if I remember correctly from someone who there was someone who told me it's from the fruit of the pandanus tree.
Mm, okay.
So yeah, it's originally brown, but it's painted red. Well, brown and a bit orangish color, but it's painted red.
Interesting. And actually, it wasn't your first time visiting China. What brought you here in the first place, and when did you start learning Chinese?
So back in 2017, I was awarded a scholarship, and then I went to Wuhan to study Chinese. So I attended the Central China Normal University, Huazhong Shifan Dashi.
Mm.
So it's a very very beautiful university. Still holds a very special place in my heart because that's where I first fell in love with China, and it became my second home. Learning Chinese wasn't easy. I can tell you that. There,
Yes, it can be
there were the
hard.
different tones. There was the characters. I nearly gave up learning the characters because when I write, we had to write one new word, one new character 10 times for homework. And we have like 10 or 20 characters. And if we get it wrong, we have to do it all over again. So at the end of the day, my hand will be very sore just writing the characters. But now that I think about it, it was worth it because now I can just write characters off the top of my mind without looking at a book or looking at my phone to see
Ooh,
which
wow.
stroke. So it
Incredible.
was it was amazing. It was incredible.
And I wonder, as a journalist, what motivated you to pursue a career in journalism?
For me, I loved writing. It's always been my thing. Even back in high school, in elementary school, and also reading. Reading was a very very big favorite of mine when I was a kid. I loved reading books like Harry Potter, Hunger Games, those type of books. And growing up as well, I had an interest in reading the newspaper, print media. I like learning about new news, stuff like that, what's happening in the world today, keeping up to date. So, my very first job, of course, was being a journalist in Samoa. I haven't been with the same media since. I've been with different media groups here in Samoa. But for now, I'm currently with a government newspaper, and it's been an amazing experience as a journalist.
Can you share some key moments or key events that made a big influence on what you focus in your reporting?
So, in my early years as a journalist, I really loved reporting on climate change and the environment. Now, the environment was a really big favorite topic of mine because, like I said, Samoa is a Pacific Island nation, and we are the first ones to experience impacts of climate change because of rising. There's rising sea level that's happening. Now, I did a lot of reporting on climate change. I've interviewed a lot of people who like to compare the past and the present, how things used to be before all these impacts. And not only the rising sea level, there have been a lot of storms, cyclones lately, flash floods. One of my biggest coverage was during the flash floods that Samoa had back in, I believe it was 2020 or 2021. Now, that caused a lot of people to have their land damaged. A lot of people lost their homes. Well, some people had their homes saved, but it was a bit damaged. And I was able to see that up front when I did a coverage of how it impacted the community. This had shown me how much big climate change is. I was hoping that through my writing that I will be able to give a voice to these people so that other nations will be able to hear the cries of the Pacific. We have a lot of things going on, these climate conferences and all these workshops, but not a lot of action is happening to fight the climate crisis, which is why I told you that I'm very happy with China's initiatives in making their energy sector more greener and cleaner. It's good for the environment. Especially, I recently learned about China's initiative in expanding their solar energy,
Yes.
if I'm correct, Cynthia.
Mm.
Yes. So hopefully, a lot of other countries follow suit to what China is doing. It'll be a big help to the Pacific if everyone can think about the environment. Uh, it'll be nice to have a lot of people come and see for themselves how much climate change is impacting a lot of livelihoods, a lot of people. And it's very sad to see a lot of islands being lost. Now, currently, a lot of people, I've heard from other islands that a lot of people have to move due to sea level rise. And these are stories that are passed around in the Pacific, and we hope to get these stories out into the international community so they can hear our voices. Now, I know a lot of climate activists that have been doing a tremendous amount of work. So hopefully, China can also help us in expanding our voices to the international community.
Climate change is a massive issue that requires more people's attention and awareness. And like you said, there's still a long way to go. And also, this year marks the 50th anniversary of China Samoa diplomatic relations. So, over the years, we have seen increasing cooperation between both sides in different aspects. I wonder, Mark, if you've come across any stories that are related to China Samoa cooperation or exchanges.
Of course, I've witnessed a lot of that. I work. I'm very close to a lot of the Chinese community here in Samoa. Even the Chinese embassy. They're very, very, very kind people. And not only that, Samoa and China's history goes way back before we established diplomatic ties with China in
75.
almost 50 years. Yeah, 1975, almost 50 years ago. Now, the history goes back hundreds of years, actually. Well, 100 years. A lot of Chinese people were brought into the country to work in Samoa. Because of a lot of Chinese coming and staying here, they married a lot of local women. And then their descendants are currently living here in Samoa. A lot of people here in Samoa, they're full Samoan, but they have Chinese last names. You'll be surprised about how many people have Chinese last names in Samoa. So it's not only on a diplomatic level that Samoa has is close with China. We have a personal relationship with China, which goes back a century. Just recently, I learned that the Chinese Spring Festival has a history of about 100 years in Samoa. There was
Really?
a newspaper. Yeah, yeah. The ambassador said during this celebration of the Spring Festival that there was an article published by a newspaper called the Samoa Times back in, I believe it was 1927, that the Chinese people, the Chinese community in Samoa back then, were celebrating the Spring Festival. So this is a very long time ago. That's the 1920s. So our relationship goes back a long time, and we haven't been friends for only half a century. We've been friends for more than a century. Now, in terms of the diplomatic ties, it's really great to see a lot of developments between the two. Now, I can tell you that a lot of the infrastructure in Samoa is funded by China. This goes back many years. A lot of the government buildings were funded and built by China. More recently, of course, back in November, our prime minister had visited China and met with Xi Jinping. Now,
Yes.
this was a very historic moment. This was her first ever visit to China as the prime minister of Samoa. And after that, there's a lot of developments that have been happening. Of course, the mutual visa exemption. That's one of the biggest things that's been happening recently. And for this year alone, there are a lot planned for the Samoa China 50 year celebration. It's going to be throughout the year because I know November is the actual celebration. But it'll be very great to see what happens from then on. There's a lot of people in the Chinese community here in Samoa that's very excited, and of course, I'm very excited. China's my second home, so it's very, very, very. I'm very grateful to be able to witness such a historic year.
Mm. And also, you mentioned the mutual visa exemption agreement. So, I wonder if for Chinese tourists, if we are going to Samoa, what are some of the things that you think we as tourists should know ahead of our trips? Or do you have any
Okay,
advice?
I love that question. So in Samoa, of course, there's a lot to do. I can tell you there's a lot to do. But one thing you should remember, Samoa is a tropical country. It is very hot.
Okay.
So, to all the travelers, do not bring any long sleeve or any winter clothes with you. Bring something that will make you comfortable in the weather. Beach clothes. Like if I was to compare, if you're traveling to Hainan, then wear stuff you would wear in Hainan.
Ah,
And if you come to Samoa, of course, there's a lot of hotels to choose from. We have very, very much hotels that a lot of people would love. Now, I don't want to name any of the hotels. I will just tell you that all the hotels are great.
oh.
I will leave it to the tourist. I will leave it to the person to make their decision and their review on it. Now, in terms of traveling, there are two main islands in Samoa. There's Upolu and then there's Savali. But then there's other two small islands called Apolima and Mononu. Now, for Upolu, Upolu is the main island because that's where the capital Apia is, and then that's where the first island you landed. That's where the international airport is. So there's a lot to do in Upolu. There's a lot of beautiful beaches there. There's a lot of great hotels, activities that you can take part in. There's a culture center that is run by the Samoa Tourism Authority that a lot of the workers there can show you how to dance the Samoan way, what are Samoan cultures, how to make Samoan food. So that's a good start for where you should go. But for me, I'm from the other island called Savai. It's the biggest island in Samoa. Now, I might sound biased when I'm saying this, but for tourists, the best island to go to is Savai. Now, in saying that, okay, here's my unbiased opinion. Savai, of course, is there's more nature in Savai. There's a
Oh.
lot of beautiful nature there. There's a lot of beautiful beaches. If I want to go to a beach here in Samoa, I would go back to my island in Savali and go to the beaches there. And there's a lot of history of myths and legends that you can find in Savali. It would be a very great trip to do. You can do a round trip of the island in a day, in just one day. If you want to do more, of course, you're gonna have to spend like 2 or 3 more days. But then one day is enough to go around Savali. You can go to the blowholes. You can go to the waterfall. Now we have a very beautiful waterfall in Savali, and I would recommend you guys to go there. You can also in Savali. There's an area where you can swim with turtles.
Oh,
It's a very big.
wow.
You can swim with turtles, and it's one of my favorite spots in Savali. I've been there a few times, and it is very beautiful. And it's so great to have the opportunity to swim on a turtle.
You sound just like a cultural ambassador of Samoa.
Yeah. I hope I'm not sounding biased because I'm from Savali, but I'm telling the truth. It's a very beautiful island.
And that was Leota Marc Membrere, a journalist from Samoa. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Thanks for listening, and special thanks to Mark. If you are interested in hearing more fascinating stories of people connected to China, be sure to find us on radio.cgtn.com or any of your favorite podcast platforms. Just key in Footprints. You can find more stories anytime, anywhere. I'm Xingyu. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.